Hello everybody, I'm Mindy Weiss, author of The Wedding Book, and I'm here to welcome you to Tom's of Maine Wicked Fresh Wednesdays chat series. I'm excited to offer you wedding and lifestyle, inspiration, eco-friendly tips and ideas, and much more. To get started, just type in any questions in the Facebook or Ustream chat boxes. I'm ready for you. Oh, here's the first question. How did you become a celebrity wedding planner? Is this the job you always wanted? Well, I was in the invitation business for about 10 years, and one of my clients came in and he had an argument with his family, and he says, Mindy, why don't you just do the party? Well, I really didn't want to be an event planner because they all came to me for invitations, and I always saw how tired they were and cranky, and I thought, ugh, not for me. So he talked me into doing it. I did it one time and I was hooked. So I really believe if it's in you and you get that little bug for it, you can't get rid of it. And then my first celebrity who came in was Brooke Shields. And it was a wonderful experience, and at that point I realized, celebrity brides are not much different than my regular brides, except you have to have a lot of extra security, and you have to really have good time management because they don't have much time to plan their own weddings. I think the best way to become a wedding planner, to start in that, is maybe what I always tell everybody when they email me is that I think the best way to get experience is working at like a 4 to 5-star hotel in the catering department. Then you really learn everything, all different types of parties, not just wedding, and you get to learn about vendors too. The next question is, you've planned the weddings for Heidi Klum, Gwen Stefani, Eva Longoria. Did you have to deal with paparazzi? And how did you keep the location and wedding details a secret? Well, as far as paparazzi, that is a big concern with every celebrity wedding. Yes, the worst paparazzi was at Eva Longoria's wedding in Paris. I had no idea how popular Tony Parker and Eva, the combination together, it was pretty intense. But in order to keep it a secret, we really try to not send invitations, to limit the emailing and anything that goes in the mail. But unfortunately, it could be just an innocent family member that can leak some information, and typically they're not doing it on purpose. Oh, another question. What has been your favorite wedding to date? Well, that is a hard question because I really find wonderful things in every wedding that we've done. A lot of you know that every year Heidi and Seal, they renew their vows. I just got back from Palm Beach where they renewed their vows. They always have a wonderful theme. This year it was a Venetian theme. So they're all my favorite, and I've become very close friends with a lot of my brides, but I would say because I work with Heidi and Seal the most, that may be close to one of my favorites. Okay, one more question here. Where do you get your inspiration when you begin planning a wedding with a new couple? Well, what we do is we sit down and we have a nice, comfortable, long meeting, and I find out what their dreams are, what their expectations are. A lot of people come in with tons of magazine pages torn out, and I actually, from looking at one page and I can see their taste and style, I'll take it from there. We talk about the colors. The first thing is the dreaded budget, or budget as I call it. But that way I don't propose anything that I don't think would be in their budget and where they could be disappointed that they can't have what they want. There's fabulous inspiration out there in magazines, even some of the TV shows. I watch them all, I'm sure you do too. And I get little things from there, but my favorite inspiration comes from designer magazines, decorator magazines, which you wouldn't expect to see things, but that's where the color trends are too. What is your favorite trend this season? Hi, Natalie. Well, I think my favorite trend this season is that I'm seeing a lot more color. Color, people aren't as afraid, so what I'm seeing is a very basic background like whites and creams, and then we're doing pops of color. So this summer I'm seeing a lot of combinations of yellow and platinum, so like yellow and gray, and of course purple and lavenders are always popular for the summer going into early fall, and I'm doing a lot of lavender and navy. That is a big popular color. So I love the trend of a lot of color, not so many white weddings. Here's another question. Is there a mantra or quote that represents the way you try to live your life? Oh yeah, and I read it in a magazine. Keep calm and carry on. That probably is my mantra. You know what? I always keep my sense of humor. I try to find the lightness in everything. I talk to my brides and grooms and say, if you just keep your eye on the prize, getting down the aisle and saying I do, all the rest, all the minutia that goes on in there is just added fun. And also, I have 3 children, so I always think, you know what? That's where the reality is in there, and everything else comes easy. Here's a question from Courtney. Hi, Courtney. What did you think of the royal wedding? Okay, I was up at 1 o'clock. I'm in California. I didn't miss 1 second of it. Well, when Catherine got out of the car, I was a little, I'll say just a touch disappointed, because I just had this thing in my mind that it was just going to be, her dress was going to be a little different or grander or something. But by the time she got out of the car till she walked down the aisle, I was obsessed with her look and her dress. There were no flowers or anything in the church except those green trees, which I thought was interesting, and just her bouquet. And of course, we didn't see any pictures of the party, which I would have loved to. But you know what? I was so happy and inspired with the simplicity of it that I think that's going to be a trend carrying on, that really you don't need all this stuff. It's all about getting married. But I loved it. I loved the wedding. Okay, here's another question. What's the most unique or crazy wedding you've ever been a part of? Well, we get a lot of requests for some crazy things, and I'm painfully honest. I really believe that I will give my bride and groom anything they want because it's their day. But if it's something random, once we had a groom who wanted me to build a platform over the pool during cocktails and have midget wrestlers wrestling during cocktails. And I felt that that wasn't appropriate. I didn't see the humor in it, and it takes a lot for me not to see humor in something. So that was a little bizarre. But, you know, Heidi and Seal, every year, they do fabulous costume parties. So that always brings on some craziness and some creativity. I did do an 11-tier cake once where the bride and groom had to climb up little step stool to cut it. I think that to me was very interesting, but I haven't had to do too many bazaars. We did a Moulin Rouge wedding where the bride wore all red and feathers. But, you know, I live in LA, Hollywood. Nothing seems too random to me. What is my thoughts on Pippa Middleton's white gown? Is wearing white still considered a wedding no-no? What colors are and are not appropriate? Well, I was curious why everybody made a big deal about her wearing white, because I have done several all-white weddings, so I didn't find it unusual. Apparently in England, it's common. That's the tradition that everybody wears white. I loved her dress. Her body is redonkulous and amazing. I did know that Cameron Diaz did wear that dress at the 2010 Golden Globes, so I was surprised that, you know, of course my nephew told me that we had seen it before. She's beautiful. She's made a hit, and I'm still doing all white weddings, so I didn't find that unusual. Here's another question. Hi, Susan. What is your favorite eco wedding favor to give guests? My favorite, I'm not a big party favor gal. I really feel unless it relates to the bride and groom, why do it? At the end of the night when I'm cleaning up with my gals, we're picking up all the party favors that people have left because it's not significant, it's not special enough. My favorite eco-friendly party favor is giving a donation in people's names. And the last wedding that I did, we actually gave everyone, the flowers were all succulents, so we gave everyone just a very, very small succulent plant that they can plant in their garden and continue the memories. And attached to that, on, of course, eco-friendly recyclable paper, was a note that said, in honor of you being at our wedding today, a donation has been made, and they did it to the Cancer Society, a gift that keeps on giving. Donation by far is the best eco-friendly gift. Hi Erin, here's a question. What was your wedding like? Well, I had 2 weddings. My first wedding was the ridiculous wedding, 400 people, you know, my mom went to town. That's before I was even a wedding planner. And you know what's interesting? I look back on it because I really feel you have to personalize your wedding. And I had married a man who was in the produce business. So my mom had designed these centerpieces that were flats of strawberries, beautifully lined up, and through the strawberries were growing tulips. So it was amazing. I mean, I think about it now, and that was like 30 years ago, even though I'm only 20. But that was about 30 years ago, and I think, wow, she had really great ideas because it really, he's in the produce business, really who else would have flats of strawberries? You know, it really related to us. So that was fabulous. And my second wedding was almost a surprise wedding, and was only 36 close people, and I wore pink, a fabulous dress, which one day I have to blog about. And it was very small and intimate because I had my children there, and it still was fabulousness. It was really good. Do I have any tips for cutting your wedding budget? I do have tips. The first thing I want to say is really, really try to stay on the budget. You'll be very surprised when you start planning on what things cost. Obviously, a lot of you have never been married before. Wedding planners already know this, but some of the things are very surprising, and so once you have your budget, you'll have to readjust it and cut the pie differently. I always say if you're having it at a hall or a hotel, find out everything they offer you. Everything. If you can't afford to rent linens, then why not rent beautiful napkins? Those are what's in front of them all night long, little details. Going and buying some chocolates. I mean, I don't know if any of you saw my episode on Nate Berkus on the 99-cent store, but you cannot believe what I have found there. And even chocolates that are fresh and beautiful by putting a little dish of chocolates on the table is personal. Also remember, don't order your wedding cake for the amount of people are there. Say you're having 200 people, order it for 150. They're charging you per slice. Believe me, it will be plenty. There's always cake left over. So there's just a couple tips. Also, a champagne toast. You know what? Let everybody toast with what they're already drinking. I mean, a glass of wine is fine. No one's going to realize that you haven't poured champagne. And a champagne toast can cost anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500. That is a big chunk of your budget. Here's another question. How do you advise people to add a celebrity touch to their own wedding? Well, the truth is that you're going to have your own ideas. Now, I look at all other weddings that I don't do, and I try to pull, ideas from it if I love it, and then I turn it into what the couple wants. A celebrity wedding is very much like everybody else's wedding. It's what they wanted and they designed. And truly, yes, they may have a little bit of a bigger budget in some sense, so we can do more flowers or we can do beautiful custom tablecloths. But if you look at it, the only difference is their style and their budget. So celebrity weddings, it depends which ones you like. That's a hard question. Do you think the maid of honor should be in charge of everything? That is an excellent question. I don't think the maid of honor should be in charge of everything. First of all, I guarantee you that maid of honor has a job and is busy, and even though it's an honor to be in the wedding and be part of the wedding party, give her some chores, but please don't make her in charge of the seating card. She's walking down the aisle. You need to let her enjoy the day as much as all the other bridesmaids. It's nice to delegate. There's also the best man that can be doing things too. So delegate it. All the bridesmaids could have little jobs, but when it really rests on the shoulder of the maid of honor, I've seen some wicked fights happen and some great friendships break up over it. So be fair and be nice and give it to everybody in your wedding party a little job. What is the most popular venue for celebrity weddings these days? Well, again, it's a personal choice. We always try to find some place that can be hidden. So whether it's inside a place where no helicopters can fly over. For instance, for Fergie's wedding, we tented an entire property. So they couldn't see anything, and that is a good way to get the helicopters out of there. I always try to find places where they get dressed inside, they get married inside, they party inside, and if they leave for some reason after the night or anything, we kind of send out fake cars. We're always in plan and try to be ahead. Part of the fun is to beat out the paparazzi and kind of make them think you're doing one thing and then you end up with something totally different. So if you're doing a celebrity wedding, remember, try to do it in a place where you can really keep it discreet and private. Here's another question. If you can plan any wedding, past, present, or futures, whose wedding would you plan? I would like to plan Oprah's wedding. That would be my dream. That would be something that I would aspire to. I love Oprah. I already did Ellen and Portia, and I'm still friends with them, and I adore them. So now I have to do Oprah. Any diet or exercise suggestions for brides? I've heard about bride boot camp. Where are the best routines or target spots for brides? Okay, you guys may laugh at me, okay, but all my brides tend to start that bridal diet. You know, some of them get too thin and their faces look terrible in the pictures. But 6 weeks is when you should really start the process of firming. If you can start earlier, great, but the truth is that the last 6 weeks, it's what's gonna mean the most. And also, I'm not promoting any products here, but I just bought the Zumba tapes because I never have time to exercise. And this is fabulous because you want to concentrate on your arms. The flabby arm thing doesn't look great down the aisle. I have them. I'm working on them. So that's a good place. Right up here in your neck area and your arms, because remember, the fabulous gown is going to hide everything else. So that's what you want to really work on in that time. And don't get too thin. You want to look like yourself going down the aisle. Okay, how do you prevent sand from getting everywhere for a beach wedding? Well, typically the ceremonies are in the sand, and we do a fabulous shoe check-in when they come in. You know, you got to remember all the details, and a great shoe check-in is not an expensive detail. We actually take little shells and we put numbers on them, and we give one to the guests and we put one in the shoe, so after the ceremony they can get that. It's a cute idea. But if your food is in the sand, you know, your food service is in the sand and everything's in the sand, you know what? You can't really carpet the sand. You can lay a floor and build everything. Of course, that's a big expense. But typically, we can't control the sand. It's going to be there. And I haven't had any issues of it actually being in the food, but it does get in people's shoes and feet unless they're barefoot. So that's that. Here's a question. I want to go green, but also keep my wedding classy. So prefer real silver over composable utensils, etc. Can you give me some tips? Well, you know what we've been using a lot of lately, not just for weddings, for showers, for birthday parties, are these bamboo disposable plates and utensils. They are fabulous. You know, I don't love using the plastic. I try to find unique dishes and utensils, especially, you know, at hotels around the pool. They don't allow you to have glasses. I've also, you know, any kind of things that are glass for fear that it will fall in the pool. One time I had a glass hurricane candle and it fell in the pool. and the next day I had to pay for it to be completely drained and vacuumed out. Not fun. But we did also find these Govino glasses. They're plastic, but they're the only plastic glasses that do not interrupt with the taste of the wine. They're amazing, and they also have like a little thumbprint in there. They're wonderful. They come for wine glasses and for champagne glasses, and they're amazing. What's a great first dance song for father-daughter? Well, I'm an oldie, you know, we dance a lot to Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder, Unforgettable. I've had a lot of brides use Disney songs, you know, When You Wish Upon a Star, a lot of Frank Sinatra. You have to listen to the words, because it's funny, sometimes a bride and a father-bride will pick a song that is not appropriate for a father and daughter. It's kind of a little random. I really love right now John Mayer songs, Fathers and Daughters. It's a great song. Here's a good question. How much time do I need to plan my wedding? Now, this really depends on your temperament, your confidence, and what you could do. I was just hired yesterday to do a wedding in 3 weeks, and I can get it done. I think ideally, if you have the 9 months to a year, perfect. The truth is, you do a lot at the beginning, you kind of have to wait out the middle, and the last 3 months is when it really kicks in. So if you have a year to 9 months, 9 months to a year, fabulous, but know that you can get it done in 3 months. When you aren't looking at wedding magazines, what are you currently reading? Well, the truth is, all I do are read magazines. That's it. That's kind of all I have time for, because I really do love television, and I'm constantly blogging and tweeting, and I love to play Scrabble online. So my magazines are my Bibles and my inspiration, and sometimes I'll get vintage Dior and fashion books because I get so much inspiration for colors and patterns. So I collect a lot of vintage fashion books. Here's a good question. What is an appropriate budget-friendly wedding gift? Okay, as far as buying wedding gifts, if they have a registry, I suggest to buy something from the registry. If you have a courteous bride and groom, they've registered at 2 to 3 different places that are different price ranges. I think $50 is a good rate for you to spend, and you can really buy some wonderful things at places like Crate and Barrel and Pottery Barn. Even Williams-Sonoma has fabulous cooking utensils, candles, candle holders. All that is a great gift, but don't feel the pressure. If you don't have that kind of money, then be creative. There's wonderful vintage things on eBay or Etsy. You can find fabulous things. Don't feel the pressure to buy something ridiculous. I'm sure they'll appreciate whatever you get them. Here's another question. If I only make $30,000 a year, how much should I spend on my wedding? Well, what you have to do is you have to figure out how much money you need to live, okay? $30,000, you really, I think $5,000 is what you can spend on your wedding, and that is even a lot of money. You have to figure out, are you getting help from your fiance, from your parents, from everything? You know what? You want to wake up the next day and you don't want to regret the money you spent. Take it into consideration. I always say that when we're going over budget. Are you going to remember it the next day? Did you need those programs or extra menus? And you wake up and happy to know that you can still eat the next day? So take all the pie and split it up appropriately. And remember, it's mostly about you guys saying I do. What's the most common problem that brides or grooms encounter when planning their wedding? I think the most difficult thing when planning your wedding is the guest list. That always adds a little tension because mom and dad may want to invite people you've never met, the bride and groom have never met, and then the other side may be inviting people, and the guest list tends to be difficult. Once you're after that, I think it's the next thing is the seating. of seating everybody if you're planning on having seating cards. So I think those are the two most difficult parts about planning the wedding. Is there a cause you are passionate about? If so, what is it? Well, I'm very passionate about Children's Hospital. About 4 years, my middle son was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma. It was a rare cancer, but very curable. But I became very involved there. Of course, through all the treatments, you know, they never said anything to me. And then when we had when he had his last treatment, the doctors all piled in and said, "Hey, we hear you're a party planner. Do you think you can plan our next fundraiser?" So I became very, very involved with Children's Hospital. And it's very dear to my heart. And they've just built a new building. And I just did a 5K walk with Heidi. I'm getting her involved. And I love helping children. Here's another question. How can you get grooms more involved in wedding planning? Hi, Kristen. Good question. Well, I've been lucky lately. A lot of my grooms are coming to the meetings. I will tell you that the grooms love the food tasting, the cake tasting, and typically the music meeting. Those are the 3 things that they actually are interested in. I think it's important if you say to your groom, "I'd love you to be involved," so when you walk in the room, you'll know, you know, this is what we designed together, what we made together for our guests. It's fun to see the final project when you've worked so hard on it. So tell him that it means a lot, but don't overwhelm him. Again, with registry, if you're having him register with you, go there first, pick it all out, lay out, give him some choices, but don't expect him to go in there for 4 hours and just pick and choose and be happy about it. What's the etiquette on who pays for the bridesmaid dresses? Now, this is a good question. You know, my son's getting married in November. I get to plan a wedding. And my future daughter-in-law has 13 bridesmaids. I said to her, "Did you read my book?" But 13 is the number, and she has decided to pay for all those dresses, which is so, so generous. Typically, I will say to you that the bridesmaids pay for their own dresses. And brides out there, be considerate. A lot of the dresses out there may be too expensive for them. If you can help them pay, that would be lovely, but there's no expectations out there. But when choosing a dress, be considerate. That could be a lot of money for people. So I would say it's 50-50. If the bride does buy the bridesmaid dress, that should be the gift. That's a lovely gift for your bridesmaid. Oh, I love this question. I want my dog to be in my wedding. Have you ever incorporated animals into the ceremony? I've incorporated hundreds of dogs into the ceremony. That's the only animal so far I have incorporated. A lot of venues don't allow animals, but sometimes they'll let you just have your dog there to walk down the aisle. You know, it depends on the dog. I've never had one get out of hand or go to the bathroom on the dress or anything. But you need to be careful who walks the dog down the aisle. If it's a frisky dog, you want to walk down the aisle and get them out of there right away. It's always good to have someone there to take the dog home afterwards, so you're not worried about it. I remember at Adam Sandler and Jackie's wedding, Meatball was walking around at the whole dinner, and everybody fed him, and I remember he got sick. So you want to keep that all into consideration. It's quite overwhelming for an animal. What is a typical day like for me? Well, are you ready to get really tired? My typical everyday is I'm up about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm answering emails in the morning. I try to blog. I try to tweet. I get my youngest son up for school at 7. We leave for carpool at 7:30. I drop him off by about 7:45. Then I go and do Pilates if I haven't canceled because I'm so tired. I do Pilates, and then I'm in the office at 9 o'clock in the morning. At that time, I have to return a lot of the out-of-town calls so it doesn't get too late. And I have about 5 to 6 appointments booked a day with brides or other parties that we're doing, because we don't only do weddings. We do about 60% weddings and about 40% of bar and bat mitzvahs, anniversary parties, showers, which are my favorite, and other type of corporate events. So from there I work, then I get home, and then dinner's ready, and we all eat dinner together. It's very important. And then I get in my pajamas really quickly, and I get into bed, and I'm on the computer, my Scrabble, iPad, and I'm watching Dancing with the Stars. And there you go. Do you have a favorite wedding season? I always hear about summer weddings, but not much about winter or spring. Well, actually, my favorite season is would be fall, winter for us here, but we're in California, so the weather isn't terrible, but I love September, October, November weddings. That's my favorite season here. December, it interferes a bit with the holidays, so you miss some of the guests. They may be traveling or don't want to travel during the holidays. So I would say September, October, and November is my favorite season. Hi, Carla. What is your favorite location for a destination wedding? Well, I have two places that I love for destination weddings. We're close to Mexico. I love Cabo San Lucas. I love Mexico. That is one of my favorite places. And also Anguilla. I think the islands are so beautiful. The water is so blue. The weather at certain times is very predictable. This year we have a wedding in Hawaii, Mexico, New York. We're doing a lot in New York this year, so we're really traveling all over. But also consider your guests when you're picking a destination, that it's not too far and too difficult to get to. Here we go. Are you seeing any new traditions emerging for same-sex couples? Well, for a while last year, we were doing several same-sex marriages. That was when the law was changing here and there. So I do about 10 a year of same-sex marriages, and they're very much like my regular brides and marriages. You know, the fashions change a little. One of the partners with my lesbian couples, you know, typically wears a beautiful pantsuit, and one wears a wedding gown. I just had two women where they both wore wedding gowns, so it really depends. But otherwise, the decor, you know, they have their style, just like any other brides. But they're definitely coming, and we're definitely doing more. Okay, what is a good trick to make heels more comfortable? Well, when you're buying new wedding shoes, you have to, well, you'll have them for when they alter your dress, so you need them for that, so you have the right length dress. And you need to start wearing them before the wedding. You need to break them in. Do not wait till your wedding to start wearing your wedding shoes. You got to rough up the bottoms a bit so you don't slip. I think you should always have a second pair of shoes, because no matter what, I'm giving you 3 hours in those heels, and that is a long time. The burning starts, and the pain and the throbbing starts, so always have a second pair of shoes. Once you have the picture of the shoes, go on to the next. Here we go. Hi, Kristen. What do you advise brides to do and not to do on the wedding day? Okay, what I want you to do on your wedding day is wake up and let everything go. What's gonna happen is gonna happen. Stay calm, smile, and that will spread amongst your bridesmaids, and everybody will be really calm. Do not get a massage, do not get a facial, do not start any new products or try something new on the day of your wedding. Be careful with medications. You must eat. Eat and drink. Even if you don't even feel like it, you don't realize how important it is, even for your skin and how you will look in pictures. Continue to drink all day, and go to the bathroom before you go down the aisle. Here we go. Buffet, appetizers, or a sit-down dinner. Which do you recommend the most, and why? Well, I prefer a sit-down dinner. I like a cocktail hour with past hors d'oeuvres and maybe some food stations, But I really don't like to see people dressed up and standing in buffets or station lines. But that's just me. And we're doing a lot of that. But think about it. If you are going to have buffet or food stations, you may not want to have a black tie wedding. It's very strange to me to see people in tuxes and bow ties and long gowns standing in line for food. So I love sit-down dinners. Here's a cute question. My friend is being a bridezilla. Any advice on calming her down? Well, sometimes when these brides get in the zone and they're in the bridezilla zone, it takes a while to get them back on track. There are many bridal personalities, and I warn the grooms about this, that sometimes brides take on a whole different being. You don't even recognize this person. They are really acting crazy. So if you as a bridesmaid can keep your sense of humor, try to listen to her without any confrontation, and really, she knows when she's being ridiculous. Do as much as you can do for her, but at some point you're gonna have to say, hey, let's enjoy this time. Maybe you can calm down a little, take her for a drink, get her to laugh at herself. Here we go. Where do most couples like to tie the knot? Hometown or current city? Well, I find when people are deciding where to get married, they tend to be doing it where they live at the time, especially if they have lived there for a while, because all their friends and they've made new friends in that area. Sometimes at hometown, it could become a destination wedding, so you have to consider that, people traveling there. I think also when you're considering where to get married and you want people to show up, you have to consider, well, are they going to come if you have it in Illinois or you have it and you're actually living, in California? So that's something to think about. Here, what is an appropriate wedding cake flavor that everyone will enjoy? That's a great question. When we're doing our cake tasting, sometimes brides and grooms get really creative. They'll do a white cake with passion fruit filling and little chocolate chips added and stuff. But really, when you're doing your cake tasting, you should consider, especially if you're serving it, what would everybody like? I think the easiest red velvet, yes, is very popular, but there are some people who don't like the cream cheese filling. Not me, I love it. But I think if you do a white cake with chocolate fudge filling, that would be the most popular. Is it tacky to skip hiring a DJ or band and just create my own iPod mix? I'm not going to say it's tacky, but you have to think about, you need an MC there. You need somebody that's kind of running the dance sessions. Nobody cheesy, but someone that can introduce the bride and groom for their first dance, ladies and gentlemen for their first dance, man and wife to come in. So if you just have your iPod going and you're expecting people to dance, I think it's always nice to have a DJ MC or the MC of the band, the leader of the band. I think that's important. Okay, what is the proper etiquette for mentioning where we are registered? Wedding invitation or bridal shower invite? I recommend not putting it in your wedding invitation. It is completely appropriate for your shower invitation. Also, I would say 90% of my brides and grooms have wedding websites now. So that is a great place to put where you're registered at. I know a lot of the guests will go there to look at that. And you know what? It's okay to ask for gifts on your registry. I think people enjoy knowing what you want and buying something that you want. Okay, how do I pick an appropriate dress for a wedding being a plus-size woman? Have you seen that? Say yes to the dress plus size? I love that. So you know what? Being a plus-size woman, you know what you're comfortable in. I think almost I would say 50% of the wedding dress designers right now are making plus-size dresses. I know that David's Bridal has a wonderful selection of them, and also Kleinfeld's, where they film Say Yes for the Dress. So take a family member with you. You need an advice. Take your best friend, of course not your groom, and they'll be honest with you, but the most important thing is that you feel beautiful and you feel comfortable that day. Do you think the bride should be involved in planning her bachelorette party? I think the tradition of a bachelorette party is for the wedding party, the bridesmaids, or, I have a lot of weddings where there's men in the bride section too. I think that's kind of their responsibility. If no one's, stepping up for it and you really want it as a bride, I think it's fine to plan your own bachelorette. If you want it, then do it yourself, but hopefully that the wedding party can do it. Now, if they're not doing what you want and you have the money to do what you want, I think there's no problem doing it yourself. Who is supposed to throw the bridal shower? I've heard it's not supposed to be the family members. Traditionally, it is not supposed to be a family member, but I will tell you, lately, I've had some moms and sisters doing the wedding shower. Now, I don't know if that's because no one's offered to do it or because they want it a certain way and they don't want to leave it up to their friends. But if you're a bridal party, or if an aunt is not considered in the immediate family, an aunt can do it, then let them do it. And if not, I just feel like it's another a financial responsibility of your mom or sister when they're also maybe paying for the wedding. But it's okay to let that happen. Where do you get inspiration for your clients? What questions do you ask the couple? Well, when I'm getting inspiration, I always ask the couple, first, budget, colors, music, cake, and we go down the line and we kind of map out what are priorities. When I always go to a music meeting, my music guy says, how important is dancing? And that could be the number one. But then I get a bride and groom who are foodies, so food becomes really important. So again, it's all about how you're cutting the pie. Have you ever had a groom plan the entire wedding? I'm probably doing 60 weddings a year for almost 30 years. I've only had 4 grooms who planned the entire wedding, and it was the best time ever. All of them had very busy wives or fiancés at the time, and 2 of them lived out of town, and he was planning them in California. And it was wonderful. There weren't as many meetings as I would have liked, but we certainly made decisions very quickly. Not that us women don't make decisions quickly, but the men, they don't have to think about it as much as we do. What is the most creative wedding favor you've come across? Well, again, with wedding favors, I only like them if they're personal to the couple. One time we had a bride who had had breast cancer and surviving, and they had the Beanie Baby breast cancer bear. So she bought that for each woman there and some of the men. And it was great because it went to the cause, and it was a remembrance of that and became personal. I also did a wedding where it was a Disney theme, and they loved Mickey and Minnie, and that was part of the favor. But even though it was a little, cheesy for that was their theme. When people got it, they actually said, this is so Jen and Joe. So it was almost expected, and it made sense. Don't buy a party favor just to have a party favor. Are we expected to have an open bar? If we can't afford it, how much alcohol should we budget per person? There are no expectations, but what I will recommend is, if you can avoid it, do not have a cash bar. If you don't have enough money in the budget for a full bar, at least offer some wine. A soft bar is wine, beer, champagne, and sodas, and that is fine. If you find that that's too hard to fit in the budget, we have a plane going overhead, then I would just offer either champagne or wine. But something at the bar is nice to have. I never like to see when your guests are taking money out of their pocket, and also some of them may not bring money to pay for the drink. One time I went to a wedding and they gave out drink tickets, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like a charity event. As a guest, I worry about what I'm wearing. What are your thoughts on guest dress? Well, I'm often surprised when I do see guests come wearing white or like a cream style wedding gown type. I still love creams and champagnes and I feel it's appropriate. I still don't think it's appropriate to wear white to a wedding unless the attire called for everybody to wear white. So look at the attire. If they haven't put the attire on the invitation, you might want to ask, you know, what would you like us to wear to the wedding? Ask. It's better that you feel comfortable when you get there. Are there any tools or websites I can use to make planning my wedding easier? Well, that's a really good question. You could buy my iPhone app, Plan It with Mindy Weiss, but there is so much literature. I have to tell you that Martha Stewart, there's so many people that have wonderful suggestions and forms and everything that you can just download to plan your wedding. I did my iPhone app because I have so many working, busy brides that it's a great way to kind of go on it during work, check on it. You can upload everything on this app, but there are other wedding apps as well. And I would get a wedding organizer book because it really shows you what questions you might forget asking when you're interviewing a caterer. You need to have all those questions so you go in making all your vendors feel you know what you're talking about so you don't get taken advantage of. What are your thoughts on wedding websites in lieu of formal invitations? I feel that you should mail an invitation. I know budget-wise that, you know, things like paperless post and all those invitations you can get online are very reasonable and everything, but I still think if you're doing a traditional wedding, there should be an invitation that they can touch and feel and receive. And you know, there are some guests, believe it or not, that are not computer savvy yet, especially our older guests that aren't online. So what do you do then if you put everything online? I think it's important to do an invitation, and there are several companies now where you don't have to spend a lot of money on invitations. How long did it take you to write the wedding book, the big book for your big day? Well, it was supposed to take 1.5 years. But it took me 5 years to write this book. We just couldn't get enough information in there. They actually wanted to title it The Wedding Bible, and I wasn't too certain about that name, so we named it The Wedding Book. But it really, I get wonderful, wonderful emails from people that it has become their Bible. I tried to put every single thing in there, from when my brides asked me all the questions, for what mothers and fathers would want, and traditions. Why do we have to do that? Where did it come from? So great tips in there, and I just felt like I couldn't stop writing until the point where it's almost 500 pages, and I thought, oh boy, I don't want the bride to get overwhelmed. Oh, are food trucks becoming popular at weddings? Yes, yes, yes. I don't know where you guys are, but in California and in New York, and I just did something in Chicago, yes, we are doing food trucks mostly for late night food. So they've had their dinner, and instead of passing the sliders and cocktail weenies and everything, we pull up a food truck. Very popular. Mostly popular for the rehearsal dinner, because that is a place where sometimes in the budget they don't want a real expensive place. They want it to be more casual. So we're doing a lot of food trucks for rehearsal dinners, and they're not going away. This is a huge trend. It is not going away. And also food carts. You're going to see great ice cream carts, taco carts. This is a great, what I call like a great sense of humor, giggle thing to add to your wedding. I want a special cocktail at my wedding. What kind of signature cocktails would you recommend? Now, signature cocktail drinks aren't as popular as they have been. I will tell you that classic drinks are back. You're not seeing so many fruity martinis or infused vodkas. People are ordering classic martinis, vodka on the rocks, and of course, tequila is huge. So I like, when I'm doing a signature drink mix, I like to know what the bride likes to drink and the groom likes to drink. And we try to infuse it to make it, you know, both of your drinks together. Make sure it's not something too fruity or sweet so people don't get sick at your wedding. And something that's easy to drink, that is more universal. Vodka, something with vodka in is always a good drink. Mojitos are still very popular too. What is the biggest wedding disaster you ever had to deal with? Well, fortunately, I haven't had to deal with too many disasters. A few months ago, I did have my first wedding cake fall, my very first. And after I took a deep breath and kind of, you know, looked at the situation, since the bride took about 3 months to design that cake, I figured get it up, get it out as quick as possible, and make sure that she had a wedding cake to cut. The baker was fabulous. I called them, they brought another cake. It didn't look exactly the same. And when the bride finally realized what happened, I looked right in her eyes. I said, it's flour, sugar, and water. That's all it is. You're married, you're happy, and you will have a cake to cut. And thank goodness she had a good sense of humor. I'd like some advice on flowers for a small, deep red bouquet. Do you have advice or suggestions? Flowers for a small, deep red bouquet. Well, red is a vibrant color itself, so it doesn't have to be big. Depending on the season, if you're getting married at the time of when there is dahlias, red dahlias are amazing. Not only are they full, you won't need so many if you want a small red bouquet, because the flower bud is so big and it's very full, so it won't look too sparse going down the aisle. So dahlias is a great flower. Garden roses, red garden roses. Again, the head is so big you won't need as many flowers. So sometimes when you're thinking small, don't think of small little buds. Think of bigger flowers, peonies, and those type of flowers. You'll get so much more out of it. I love red bouquets. Hi, Jean. How do I find my knight in shining armor? Okay, first of all, you have to buy my book, because I swear to you, right after you buy that book, your knight will come, I hope. I mean, how do you feel about, you know, computer dating? I have done now about 8 website dating, you know, where people have met on dating sites. You know, I know it's tough. I've heard a lot of stories, but truly, I think there's a lot of people out there like you who are looking for their princess. So I think you should try that. I think you need to get up, get out of the house at night, go with your friends, be social. You will not find anybody sitting at home and waiting for them to come. The workplace is a great place too. And also, as my mother always says, you never know who you can meet on a date. So you're going out with one person, you may be lucky enough to find that other person who's also on a bad date. What is your all-time favorite wedding movie and why? All right, well, my all-time favorite movie, current, well, not so current anymore, is You've Got Mail. I know, I'm sick. I watch it all the time, and I can watch it 100 times. I also, of course, love The Wedding Planner. I didn't love it the first time I saw it, and about after the 40th time, I'm really enjoying it. Of course, I love the old Elizabeth Taylor, Father of the Bride. That's a classic. But I can name every single wedding movie, and I enjoy them all. And obviously, they're so popular because look how many wedding movies are out today. I haven't seen The Bridesmaid yet. The Bridesmaids, I heard it's really funny. But You've Got Mail, I know it's not a wedding movie, but anything romantic, I am a sucker. Having guests buy items such as a lunch or boat ride for a couple's honeymoon is becoming popular. Cool or tacky? Well, I really believe that you can register for things you want anywhere. And I know there are honeymoon registering sites. Now, I do have a couple right now who are registered on a honeymoon site because they have everything they want. So they don't want gifts, they just want things for their honeymoon. I'd rather buy someone a gift than a massage or a boat ride. But again, I would listen to the bride and groom. If that's what they want and you're comfortable with buying it, get the bride and groom what they want. Are there any songs you absolutely can't stand to hear anymore because they are played so often at weddings? When I go to music meetings with my brides and groom, I don't open up my mouth at the beginning. I like to hear what they want, but often there's songs like Celebration and just some really cheeseball songs that just don't work anymore. Also, Black Eyed Peas is being played a lot now, but if it's played great, you know, the song I've Got a Feeling, people go crazy over that song still. But we're playing a lot of currents, a lot of Lady Gaga, a lot of Keith Urban. We're doing a lot of the music, so a lot of current tunes. People are very surprised that these bands can play them well. But anything like the Macarena, the YMCA, Celebration, you know, the chicken dance, no. What are your thoughts on the bridal party performing a dance routine at the reception or during the ceremony? Well, I thought when that first YouTube thing came down where the bride and groom had the dance routine down the aisle, I thought it was cute. I didn't want to do it at one of my weddings, but it really caught my attention. I thought it was unique. Look how popular it was. But I would say 90% of my brides and grooms take dance lessons and do a beautiful dance for their first dance, something that they have rehearsed and planned. So dance lessons are very popular. They'll continue to be popular. I just had my first wedding that had that flash mob thing. I really want to do that for my son. He'll kill me. But I really want to do it where they had about 60 guests who were involved in it. It was about a 150-person wedding, but 60 guests did this whole flash mob thing during the wedding, and it was very funny. Something to remember. What advice would you provide to someone who wants to become a wedding planner? Well, wedding planning seems really fun. Like, I have a lot of people come up to me and go, "Oh my God, you're so lucky you're a wedding planner." But you need to know that this is a full-time job. Sometimes I work, 7 days a week, for sure. 7 days, no breaks, no Saturday nights, no dating on Saturday nights. It's hard. You need to find a man, and I've been lucky enough to find one who can really live with the wedding planning. I think that you cannot give up. I think you'll have to do some parties for free to get your name out there, because I don't advertise. Remember, if I do a wedding for 250 people, that's my advertisement. You're only as good as your last party. And I say that to the girls that work with me. I say that to my vendors. We have one chance to do it every weekend, and I want it to be right. So I know you have to suck it up, offer your services for free, do kids parties, do any types of parties, and I promise you it will lead up to wedding planning. I can't decide between a destination wedding and a traditional wedding in the town I grew up. How should I decide? Well, I think this is a conversation if you have parents to sit down and talk to them. Like I said before, it's important to know where all your guests are coming from. There's no place like home. Your memories are there. You may have a place you always dreamed of getting married there. But take into consideration, are there enough hotels to house your guests? Is the place you want still in your budget? Or is it not enough for you? It always looked great as a kid, but now as an adult, it's not as grand as you thought. This is something you sit down and you decide, where's everyone coming from? And then you'll know if it's right or not. Remember, if it has that instant mush and that feeling, I would go for it, because you can't pay money for that instant, wonderful memory feeling. Oh, you guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This is my first live chat, and I think I kind of like it. And thank you, Toms of Maine, for having me as part of your Wicked Fresh series. It's a great series. The big day is such an important milestone, and I wish all of you health and happiness and lots of love. And please be sure to support Children's Hospital Los Angeles at www.chla.org. Good night, everybody.